This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Beginning of time, humans have tried to heal themselves with ritual and prayer, and with whatever nature provided. Through thousands of years of trial and error, formal systems of healthcare developed, systems based on foods, herbs, and other natural remedies. These systems live side by side with what we call Western medicine. Western medicine has been an enormous benefit in helping to conquer devastating infections and perfecting surgical procedures. But there is more to medicine than doctors and hospitals, and that's exactly what we'll explore this week on A Better Way to Health. Hello, I'm Stuart Shipe, a registered pharmacist, acupuncture physician, and Chinese herbalist. I'm your host this week. We make no effort to recommend or to judge, only offer that you explore a theory that good medicine comes in many forms. So let's get started. Phone lines are open for you this morning for questions, comments, or experiences about your health on WPSL at 340-1590. That's 340-1590. Let's hear from you.
Okay, folks, let's get this show going. Like you were just given the number to the studios, that's a great way to get a hold of me. There's other ways too. You can get online at info@traditionalchinesehealing.com and look up great our hours, what we do, some of our therapies, and get a little bit more information about Chinese medicine from there. Get on facebook.com/Dr. Shipe, and you can get actively involved in the program as well. You can type your question right into my monitor screen here, and I'll get that. We've got WPSLTV.com. They put all my stuff. Greg and Carol are great. They put all the shows onto YouTube, and you can view previous shows from there. So many ways. Or just simply call my office, 398-4550, and the ladies' assistants will be happy to answer the questions that they can, and if not, they'll certainly refer them to me to get answered. Well, welcome, another episode, and I'm glad to be with you guys again today. I wanted to kind of get into an interesting topic. I always try every week, as long as we still have this COVID problem going on, is give you some guides and some tips that I see clinically in the practice, and maybe some weird stuff that's going on that may be a little bit unexplained. I'll tell you a little story right away. I had a patient come in this morning, actually it was, and she was referred by Dr. Jin in my office, who's a treating acupuncture physician. And she said to the patient, you're having this all of a sudden onset of knee swelling and knee pain. Of course, she's had a chronic history of this. And she goes, but all of a sudden, why did it pop up? I had my second dose of the vaccine, and then within 2 days, my knee was stiff, my knees were swollen. And so Dr. Jin said, I think you need to see Dr. Shipe. Your pattern is changing. We need to figure out what's going on real quick with you. So I seen her this morning. Interesting, though, when you look at going deep into the system, is there an explanation? Is there a tie between swollen knee, an arthritic swollen knee, and getting the vaccine? I'm going to tell you there is. Absolutely, there definitely is. You have to look at this as a systematic problem, and that's sometimes a little bit difficult because orthopedics treats ortho problems, and immunology or infectious disease treats those type of issues. And sometimes those two medical sciences really don't talk to each other. But when you look at it from an inflammatory point of view, absolutely makes sense. So when you have a problem, when you have joint problems, specific in this woman, it's definitely her weakest link is her knees, but she has other arthritic tendencies, lower back stiffness, arm pain, joint pain throughout the body, have it for many, many years. You have to get kind of a handle on the inflammatory process. So this lecture is ultimately going to go today to helping prevent and handle arthritic pain naturally. So where do I begin with this? So the very first thing I look at is I say, what's this woman's strength, strength of her immune system? Because when you get a vaccine, the very first thing that we have to recognize is that there's two main systems in the body to deal with COVID virus. One is an inflammatory system and one is the immune system. And there's actually a bridge between these two systems called complement. A lot of doctors in biomedicine, they know it, they learned it in medical school. It's extremely complex, dealing with enzymes and peptides and breaking apart bonds of proteins and But let me make it real simple to you. This bridge called complement, its name was derived from its ability, complement's ability to literally complement the immune system. And so when you look at the complement system as a cascade or a part of the immune system, one of its jobs is to enhance the ability of antibodies. You guys all know what those are, hopefully, from so much media attention to this. It's what our immune system develops in response to a foreign invader. We develop antibodies that go after that foreign invader to kill it. Well, it actually upregulates or complements these antibodies and other immune cells. We call them phagocytic cells, which are like big old Pac-Men that just go around the body, engulfing and eating debris and old cells that have been destroyed and immune problems that are giving us grief. It kind of eats all of that stuff up and disposes of that in our lymphatic system, in our lymph system. But the complement is there to complement the antibodies and these cells, these phagocytic cells, to clear out microbes, damaged cells, virus complements, anything in the organism that's become attacked. And it really attacks these viruses very vigorously. This is the bridge. This is the beautiful thing that we have in our immune system that literally allows us to deal with this deal with the immune system and the inflammatory system. I kind of think of it, if you ever seen the movie Wild Hogs before, it had John Travolta in it and a couple other great actors. A group of guys that go out on motorcycles, gonna kind of relive their 40s or their aging and want to do it all. And they got into bull slapping. They was like, have you ever slapped a bull? And I've never personally slapped a bull on the butt. But so what they did is they literally went into a ranch, and there was a bull standing in the corral. And the first guy goes out into the corral and takes his hand and slaps that bull right on the butt, and then takes off running, right? A big, guy thing, I think, to do. And the bull just kind of turned its head and kind of looked at him like, what did you just do? So the second guy comes in the corral and says, oh, that was easy. That looked really, really easy. See, it's no problem whatsoever. And he sneaks up in the back of the bull and he swats that bull on the back of the butt. And the bull instantly turns around and starts charging him. And the guy almost got out of the corral without losing his life, right? So what happened there? The very first swat woke that bull up. And the bull didn't really know ultimately what was going on, but it woke him up. And it said, hey, what just happened here? So the second swat, oh, he was ready for that one. This is how the immune system kind of works too, swatting bulls on the butt. When you get a virus or a vaccine into the body, you bypass that whole immune cascade. You bypass all that complement, all that beautiful regulatory mechanism, so that if you get COVID naturally and that comes into your system, your body's able to look at that. It immediately builds an inflammatory response to that, including complement, in order to deal with that infection. And it works very, very effectively. Complement, actually, if you don't understand the end result of complement actually does kill viruses and organisms through its kind of turning on the immune system. You've heard of cytokines, right? Like cytokine storm, that so many people, when COVID first hit, they're like, oh, we have a cytokine storm. We have an inflammation out of control in the lungs. Those cytokines, those immune really not immune enhancers, inflammatory enhancers that we make in our own body, they were caused or turned on by complement. Complement is constantly monitoring and constantly scouring the body for old cells, for damaged cells, for viruses, for foreign invaders. And that's the beautiful turn on for the immune system.
Okay, I've got a question for you,
Sure.
Doctor. If I've had both my shots. After the second shot, and I have never had sinus issues. All of a sudden, the last 2.5 weeks, it's been crazy.
Yeah. So you just were slapped on the butt. The second virus slapped you on the butt, right?
That did it. That did.
So because that, Greg, that's your weakest link. That's where the immune system might be the weakest, or where inflammation attacks you the easiest is in your sinuses. You may have been predisposed. Maybe the day before, a couple days before, you were outside working in the yard, exposed to a ton of allergens. Your immune system already was overtaxed in that area. What I'm telling you is it doesn't directly, the virus does not directly cause that, but what happens to it is when that second dose comes in, like this woman right here, why all of a sudden the knees get stiff and the swelling, that's her weakest link. That's where the inflammation is generated. It's kind of like once that vaccine comes in the first time, it just wakes the body up. It says, oh, who are you? I need to start I'm going to take a mug shot of you. The immune system does, these beta cells, takes a mug shot of you and then passes it out through the entire immune system, makes little babies. Those are called immunoglobulins, and says, hey, be on the lookout for this guy, this foreign invader, when he comes in, or gal that comes in the door. And we want to ramp up a response. So the more antibodies that are activated, the more immunoglobulins, babies that are activated by foreign invaders, the stronger the response that you're going to get. So now you start building antibodies to this foreign invader. Not too bad, right? The immune system was able to handle that. But now you spanked it on the butt, man. It's ready. It's more than ready. So now you get your second vaccine. Whoa, all of that complement was already there, already active, inflammation occurred, and you get an over response, an over-inflammatory response to that. The first vaccine is a real problem, because you're not exposing that body to it naturally. I get it. I'm not denying that vaccines aren't lifesavers, but I'm telling you what goes on in the immune system. When you put something unnatural through the defenses of the body, through the skin, which is a huge immune barrier, keeps a lot of nastiness out, and you're not digesting it, you're not putting it down the throat, hydrochloric acid right there is a very strong stop. It stops viruses, bacteria almost immediately just by dissolving their proteins. If you smell it, get it into the nasal system and down into the lungs actually have a very vigilant cleaning system, not only immune cleaning system, but actually a detoxifying system as well, dealing with old debris and getting rid of toxins. So if you get it that way naturally, you wake up the immune system later. You wake up the inflammation system immediately. You wake up complement. And if necessary, if the inflammatory system that you initially developed, these cytokines, leukotrienes, really nasty killers of bacteria, of viruses, if they don't first kill it, which a lot of times they do, you don't even need the immune system to get involved yet. That's called acquired immunity. You know, you have this inflammatory system in the body that does a very, very good job of getting rid of organisms. But if you bypass that system, now that little critter comes in the back door, literally, and starts causing problems with you. Because why? Because your body never seen it before. And now it has to deal with that. So now now you have to say, okay, how can I prevent that? I always say what you do, first of all, is really get to the point where you're building your immune system up so that you are enhancing complement. You're making sure you got plenty of proteins on board, because complement is a protein, right? The immune system derived from proteins. So nutrition becomes optimal. Antioxidants become optimal. Why? Because even though you need inflammation to deal with the virus when it comes in the door, you also need to damper that inflammation. You don't want it to get out of control. Vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium, all from whole foods. Whole food nutrition is always the best. Zinc, that's why you have people like, why does zinc help? And why does vitamin C help? Well, not only does it help in the adrenal system, handle the stressor system of the body, but zinc is involved, I can't remember, 50, 70 plus different enzyme reactions in the body. So in order for complement to work very, very effectively, it depends on enzymes. Enzymes depend on certain minerals, cobalt, zinc, molybdenum, boron, manganese. So having good trace minerals as a daily supplement is also very helpful. It all really goes down to this system of ours. This immune system is not just about white blood cells. It's a whole range of processes that go on in the body. If those processes get out of control and start attacking the weakest link, in this woman this morning, it was her knees. So what was my recommendation to her? How do I prevent it? She goes, it's gone now. Very weird. 2 days, really, really bad. Now it's gone. Oh, it was nothing then. I was like, no, you just had a huge shot over the bow if you were in the Navy. It's a wake-up call that your immune system was kind of compromised and your inflammatory system got out a little out of control. So my suggestion for you would be to get on whole food vitamin C, vitamin E, not from artificial ascorbic acid, from a whole food source, and build your immune system up. A little bit of echinacea, maybe even going as far as maybe longer term after the initial building is looking at medicinal mushrooms. That also is very, very helpful for regulating an unbalanced immune system. So that was the story this morning. And as I get into it now you have kind of like the foundation for arthritis. I'm going to talk about how do we really get more of a natural approach, because you always thought, and your doctor always told you, that arthritis, especially osteoarthritis, was a wear and tear process. And that's why your bones are breaking down, and it's inevitable because you're getting older and you're just going to have arthritic problems. There's nothing you can do about it. But what if I told you that wasn't correct 100%? What if I told you that the immune system may be involved in why you have arthritic problems? Something you might not have known before. Well, stay with me. I'm going to go to a commercial break here. But as soon as I get done with that, I'm going to tell you why it's very, very important to keep the immune system optimal and to keep our bodies in optimal shape in regard to the immune system to prevent arthritic problems. We'll be right back. I'm Dr. Stuart Shipe on A Better Way to Health. Give us a call, 340-1590 on A Better Way to Health. We'll be right back.
Wants to know if you would give my class a lecture on Chinese medicine. We were talking about China and I told everyone my daddy is an acupuncturist, Dr. Stuart Shipe.
They can call the office at 398-4550. I speak to so many groups absolutely free to educate them on natural health care. Did you know the World Health Organization and Natural Institutes of Health list acupuncture as a safe, effective, and natural treatment?
No, Daddy, that's like so boring. I just like it when Dr. Shipe makes me feel good if I get sick.
So what do you want me to talk about so I won't bore you?
How about Chinese herbs? I think Jimmy D likes me. Do you have any Chinese herbs to make someone like me?
I use Chinese medicines to help treat so many other diseases. You know, you're way too young to be worried about boys. And besides, I used all that herbal formula up on your mommy before we got married. I'm fresh out. Oh, remind Jimmy D that Dr. Stuart Shipe doesn't like shotguns, but knows Kung Fu. And have your teacher call me at 398-4550.
Visit the office in North Stewart or the website, traditionalchinesehealing.com.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
So it's 11:27 at WPSL 1590. Talk of the Treasure Coast. Back with Dr. Stuart Shipe, who's going to talk more about bull riding.
Yeah, bull riding, bull slapping. I think slapping
Bull
bulls on the
slapping,
butt is pretty risky business. Well, welcome back to traditional Chinese women's traditional Chinese healing. We had some changes in the office. We are now specializing. A lot of questions have come up from that recently. My doctorate in traditional Chinese medicine has been in women's health. And for years and years, over actually 20 years, I've been treating kids, guys, females, children, seniors, everyone that pretty much walked through the door that wanted to get their body back naturally. And I brought Dr. Jin into my office to try and help improve my schedule because people were having to wait way too long in order to see me. She has been a great asset, very experienced physician, but she's allowed me to see even more patients. Her experience is in women's health as well. So we just decided together to really focus on what we specialize best in, and that's women's health. If you've been a guy and you've been seeing me for years and years, I'm not leaving you out in the dark, but you need to get in and get on a treatment plan. We're grandfathering in all of the guys that have seen me in the past, but you need to get in and get on a treatment plan. We're just not doing the 1 or 2 visits, every year or every couple of years. Usually as guys that come in and either the back's sore or they can't work because they're in pain or something below the belt isn't working. And that's usually why I'll see most of the guys that are in my practice. There's some great care in traditional Chinese medicine for male health, including prostate. I have a lot of gentlemen in the past that have had prostate issues that have gotten great results. So don't give up. Chinese medicine is an amazing study of medicine, and of this has great theories about how the body falls out of balance. But yes, the office is now Women's Traditional Chinese Healing. You need to get on our website, find out more information, and that's www.traditionalchinesehealing.com. And new website and new great stuff going on in the office. Thanks, Linda, for getting online. Thanks, Kathy, as well, for watching on Facebook. I had I prelude today's presentation with COVID and how we really have to keep our immune systems nice and strong. But one of the things that we don't realize is how much nutrition affects that too. I gave you a couple of examples of whole food nutrition. When I was getting my doctorate out in Portland, Oregon, there was a clinical study going on at Oregon Health Sciences University, OHSU. And amazing, they had MDs, dietitians, naturopathic docs. They had all of these different disciplines of medicine come together. And the research study was, I believe, around 200 study participants. It was over a year. And what they did is they researched all the foods that cause inflammation and all the foods that actually reduce inflammation, not scientifically by clinical study. And they created a cookbook. And I've been using this cookbook for, oh my gosh, 12, 13 plus years. And it has been significantly helpful. It's a research diet. It's called, and if you want additional information, you can certainly call my office, the Pacific Northwest Anti-Inflammatory Reference Cookbook. So what they did is they gave this cookbook to the study participants and said, we only want you eating these foods, and any of the foods that we don't want you eating, the exclusion foods, are because they cause inflammation. And 100% of the test subjects had complete remission of the arthritis. I would say that was a pretty good treatment strategy, right?
Did you say 100%?
100%, 100%. So I don't know of any clinical studies on arthritis from non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, prednisone, corticosteroids, that will give you every 100% clinical result. So what is that? Some of that stuff. The exclusions are things like in grains like wheat or gluten, corn, kamut, barley, rye. Why? Because these are all genetically engineered, genetically modified grains. Instead, start thinking of flax flour or rice or quinoa, amaranth, millet, and gluten-free oats even. A lot of this stuff, you're like, I don't even know what that is. I mean, I had a couple of patients I handed this book to. It has a grocery shopping list in it. It has menus. It has breakfast, lunch, dinner, salads, soups, drinks. I mean, the whole 9 yards as far as your nutrition. And they were like, I went shopping. I didn't even know what this quinoa, it's quinoa, Quinoa, what that is. It's not a grain, actually more of a member of a grass family, including like buckwheat. There's a lot of great foods that we don't eat. We've never prepared. We've never processed. We've never been exposed to. Vegetables like tomatoes and potatoes and eggplant, peppers, they increase inflammation in our body. So we want to avoid those. Instead, squash or leafy green vegetables or sweet potatoes, broccoli, and other types of foods, other types of vegetables are so much better if you have inflammatory problems in the body. Citrus fruits are a disaster for arthritic problems. So if you're eating a lot of kiwis and oranges, I love them. I love them to death, tangerines. But if I had arthritic problems, joints, knees, back, not the best food. Citrus causes more inflammation in the body. Think of things like cherries or apples or guava, or berries are great anti-inflammatories and actually can help boost the immune system as well. Peanuts and pistachios. Pistachios are a cultivated nut. Peanuts have a lot of aflatoxins, a lot of mold, and a lot of sensitivities, allergies in the US. Avoid peanuts and pistachios. Instead, doing things like walnuts or almonds or cashews, pumpkin seeds. I do that in my smoothie in the morning, either pumpkin seeds or I'll do chia seeds for the extra fiber. All soy products, I don't care if they're GMO or I mean, if they're non-GMO organic. I don't even know what soy is today. I'd probably avoid soy. Think about things like beans or lentils, which tend to be less inflammatory in the system.
What
All
about that
dairy,
soy milk?
yeah, I
starting-
and I know if it's non-GMO and organic, I've usually told the ladies, go ahead, it's okay, because Monsanto owns probably almost all. I think it's more than 90% of all the seeds, soy beans in America are produced by Monsanto, which they make them sterile so that the farmers can't reuse the seeds, and they've been genetically engineered to resist Roundup and stuff like that. It's crazy. So when we eat these foods, we inherit those genes, insecticide barriers, and that just directly into our body. So I just recommend soy milk isn't probably the best. Try almond milk, try coconut milk, much better, or rice milk than going in for the soy. And dairy products from cows and goats, they're definitely inflammatory. The animal kingdom, generally, I'm not saying everyone needs to be a vegetarian or a vegan, but for the most part, you should try and avoid a really, really high animal diet. It just tends to be more acidic and more inflammatory in the body. Try things like we just mentioned, nut milks or rice milks instead of cow's milk, and you'd be pleasantly surprised that you will acquire a nice taste. Do you do, Greg, do you do almond milk or soy milk or coconut milk, any of those?
I've had coconut milk before in Hawaii. It was wonderful.
Oh yeah, oh for
But
sure.
I really have not tried the others yet.
Yeah, if you're really brave, there's something called kefir, Keifer, but kefir, although it's loaded with probiotics and it's a fermented, it's kind of like drinking liquid yogurt is really what it is. But a lot of them have a lot of added sugar, and you're still coming in from dairy. So probably not, still, although very, very healthy, probably not for an inflammatory problem.
Where would you find kefir?
Oh, right in the common stores, Winn-Dixie, Publix, in the yogurt section.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where you usually find kefir.
Hey, I'll give that a shot because I like the liquid yogurt.
Yeah, so instead of things like beef or pork or shellfish or sausage or cured meats, maybe things like chicken or turkey or salmon. But you got to watch salmon now. The majority of salmon on the market, almost 95% of salmon, is farm raised. And the problem with that is they feed the salmon high levels of food that contain mercury. So now you're ingesting a load of mercury. I had a patient actually end up with problems. I did lab evaluations on her for mercury or heavy metal toxicity. And she was loaded with mercury. She was having joint pain, fogginess in the mind, which is definitely a heavy metal problem. And I was like, where is this coming from? And she goes, I'm eating so healthy. She goes, I'm having salmon almost every day. And I was like, oh no. I was like, is it wild caught salmon? And she goes, no, it's whatever you buy in the market. And I was like, that's all farm raised. Most of that's farm raised salmon. So even myself, I don't do a lot of salmon unless I can literally know that it's been wild caught salmon. Things like tuna, you have to be a little bit careful with that too. These big fish, tuna and salmon, they eat little fish, which eat littler fish all the way down the food chain until you get to the bottom feeders that are really accumulating these large loads of mercury. It's not that the fish eats a fish loaded with mercury. It's called a toxic burden. They're developing more and more and more. Why? You can't get it out of the body. It stores in the system.
So what about shrimp?
Same thing. Yeah. Shrimp, shellfish tend to be allergenic for some people, and they tend to be bottom feeders. So it'd be like eating carp, or eating mussels or oysters. These shellfish, lobsters, mussels are all the cleaners of the ocean. They're kind of like our filters of the ocean. They kind of clean the debris from the ocean. And I don't want to really eat, a lot of the animals that are actually being carpet cleaners, so to speak, in the ocean floor. So consider, like I said, consider other meats other than that. And sweeteners, a lot of honey and corn syrup and MSG, monosodium glutamate, and cane sugars, definitely avoid. And so what? Brown rice syrups, maybe maple syrups, maybe molasses would be a better fix there. It's a little bit harder to break down in the body. It's not as easy. Linda had a question here. So red meat is bad. It's not that it's bad, the quantity of red meat that we eat and the fact that red meat tends to be more inflammatory is a problem. And so I should quit Mountain Dew and peppers. Yeah, probably would be a good idea. I wouldn't be able to find half the things which I eat now. Yeah, great comment. It's because it's hard for Americans. I mean, we get in kind of our ruts about eating certain types of foods. It's hard to break that kind of pattern. Cayenne and chili peppers and paprika, all of my hot, spicy type people that love those spicy foods. Great. I love that. Enhances circulation, but man, bad if you have arthritic problems. It just can enhance that inflammatory process. So things like ginger, turmeric, garlic, maybe a little bit of even black pepper, may be better than cayenne or chili peppers or paprika as far as spices.
What about like Szechuan and Thai food?
Yeah, pretty hot. You know that you're not.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Chili pot peppers, yeah. So maybe a little bit of black pepper. It helps stimulate the digestive system in absorbing nutrients. I love turmeric, so maybe eat out at an Indian restaurant every once in a while, right? You know, the ginger, they've got spices, a little bit of garlic, turmeric. Indian food is, other than the carbohydrate load that you usually get from eating all of the breads there, but even fats. I would much rather see you guys, instead of using butter or margarine or shortenings, I'd rather much see you doing like things like olive oil or walnut oil or some of the flaxseed oils over your food. And it tastes wonderful. It gives you that fatty, rich flavor that you're really looking for. And you gotta cut down on the coffee, even decaffeinated coffees. Some of the teas, like your Earl Grey and very strongly oxidized teas, will cause inflammation, as well as alcoholic beverages. So then opt for water, or a lot of other herb teas are available to reduce inflammation as well. Chamomile is a wonderful tea that helps reduce the digestive system inflammation. And we've got so many jasmine teas. A lot of green tea can actually be inflammatory. So I don't really want to say, if you're drinking a lot of green tea, I'd probably cut it down to only maybe a glass, or at the most 2 glasses a day. But don't overdo it, because even tea, although it has some great antioxidants, also has tannins and can be a little inflammatory as well. If you want the rest of this list, go on the Pacific Northwest Anti-Inflammatory Reference Cookbook. The ladies in my office can even email you the link for that. And it's a whole cookbook. You get a PDF. I think it's 20 or 25 bucks. I'm plugging them. I don't get anything from this, but I've had so many patients that have picked up this and run with it. I've had fibromyalgia disappear after starting on these programs, arthritic problems disappear. And they're like, Dr. Shipe, you're actually recommending out of a job. I was like, no, that's the whole point, is that I don't constantly see people for arthritic problems. I want to see them when they're well, when they're feeling great, to keep them out of trouble. So now that I've taken care of a lot of that kind of stuff, I want to ask you too, is have you figured out about arthritic problems, about the wear and tear, even though you weren't a big athlete and your bones are breaking down? Have you ever thought that maybe arthritis wasn't just a wear and tear problem? The answer to that question is, you are correct if you thought that it might be an inflammatory problem. There's been some pretty good research out that is showing that now we've heard about rheumatoid arthritis. If you guys don't know, probably, oh my gosh, it's more than 80. I think it's, the last thing I seen was like 70 to 80 million people in the US, the statistics, suffer from arthritis. That's about 1 in 6 people that have this affliction. And the problem, nearly all Americans over the age of 50 have had some kind of joint pain. I know I have. Greg, I know he raises his hands, whether it's back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain. So arthritis comes from arthro, meaning joint, and itis, there it is, inflammation. So I always tell you guys, if you've been watching my blog or my show long enough, is always ask why. WHY. Ask your physicians why. You have arthritis. Why? Well, it's because you've had a stressful life and you've had a lot of wear and tear, the football, the tennis, your whole life. I'm not buying it. Because if it was, how come everyone that plays football, everybody plays tennis, whatever, has some arthritis or doesn't have any arthritis? So the two primary ones, the two differentiations are, let's talk about osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. We've always known that rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease. What does autoimmunity mean? It means that we don't exactly know in biomedicine why. Chinese medicine does why it occurs, but in biomedicine, we don't know what causes rheumatoid arthritis. We can postulate or theorize maybe it was a virus, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, herpes virus sneaking in the back door, may dysregulate or confuse the immune system, where now the immune system goes after our joint tissue, and it thinks, our immune system thinks that that's the enemy. So it's not really that we're attacking ourselves per se. The immune system is trying to attack the foreign invader who has disguised herself so well in our body that now the immune system can't differentiate healthy tissue from the foreign invader. That is the whole classic pattern of autoimmune disease. The Chinese believe that heat, because when you have rheumatoid arthritis, the joint is warm, hot, it looks red, it's warm to the touch, and we call that heat B. B, obstruction in the flow of this energy in blood, and heat is infection or inflammation in Chinese. So the Chinese believe that rheumatoid arthritis is a heat obstruction. And where does the heat come from? We call it a pathogenic evil. Now, that's great artistry, when you kind of look at it, but what are we really talking about? A pathogenic evil. Oh, it could have been a heavy metal exposure. It could have been an organophosphate. It could have been an environmental toxin. It could have been some kind of dysregulation from a virus or a bacteria. It could have been simply the flu vaccine or getting the flu, and the virus stayed in our body for many, many years, kind of laying low. And then all of a sudden, when it senses opportunity, as in this woman maybe playing all of her sports and being so active, that's her weakest link. And the body then affects that specific area. So rheumatoid arthritis is always been labeled the autoimmune type of arthritic problem. And can you get rid of it? My question to the lady that she asked me, will it ever go away, or am I going to have to resolve this to be taking herbs and acupuncture the rest of my life? The answer to that question is a little bit loaded, a little bit difficult. It depends on many, many factors. You want to mitigate as many of the problems with inflammation hitting those joints, which means nutrition first, always. Good exercise, great. But then you got to start thinking about your immune system. How do I keep my immune system in balance so it doesn't become naive, so it differentiates healthy cells from unhealthy cells, and it can really find those little boogers of viruses and get them out of my body? We never really thought of osteoarthritis that way. Osteoarthritis is the other half, where we have maybe primary or secondary. Well, primary and secondary are two different types of osteoarthritis, osteo referring to the bone, itis referring to the inflammation, and arthro, the joint, right? So joint and bone inflammation problems. Well, the primary is the most common. They said biomedicine says it's slow, insidious onset of degeneration of the joint. Things like the knees, the hips, the lower back, the neck, the fingers. So that primary osteoarthritis may be unnecessary joint stress. Maybe you were a football player, a basketball player. Maybe the joint stress, listen to me, more than 50%, actually more than 2/3 of Americans statistically are overweight. Oh, more than 40% in the US are already obese. Do you think that has any impact on stressing the lower joints, the back, the hips, the knees? Of course it does. So in biomedicine, obesity could be a primary indicator or a risk factor for developing primary osteoarthritis. There's been a lot of studies that show that obesity and a family history of arthritis develops. And now we have a obesity gene. That's kind of crazy, right? We're passing on to our kids this genetic hiccup of obesity. So when we look at studies that are shown that really tell us about obesity, we know that for primary care, you have to lose weight. So weight loss programs go back all the way to developing nutrition. So you get a 2-for-1 there, right? But what about that secondary arthritis? What about the secondary person before the age of 40 developing inflammatory problems in the joints? That's kind of weird, right? This could come from trauma, from a sudden injury. Motorcycle accidents, car accidents, you fall, maybe having surgery, you develop a secondary type of inflammation, because surgery in itself is an inflammatory procedure and it traumatizes the body. So you have to look at many small injuries to joints over the period of time may be a factor. Now I'm going to bring you into 2021. New clinical research is showing that osteoarthritis, this wear and tear, may not be right. We have an autoimmune pattern that we found developing that actually is attacking the joints, causing an osteoarthritic problem and not a rheumatoid arthritis problem. This isn't new stuff, folks. I mean, if you've been listening to me and you haven't heard about this, this research has been out at least 10 years or not more. It's the same about time when we started about what is the root cause of most degenerative chronic diseases. What is it? If you answered inflammation, you are exactly correct. It's an inflammatory response in the body that's causing our degeneration and causing it pretty quickly. Diabetes. Most people think that even diabetes has to do with eating too much sugar or eating too many starchy foods. I could agree that it's probably not conducive to getting you out of insulin resistance or having problems. But even at this chronic debilitating disease, we're starting to see problems. We're going to go right to the phone lines here. We're starting to see problems with immunity or immune problems relating to attack on these beta isolate cells. And we're starting to think that diabetes is a disease of inflammation and not a disease of nutrition. We're going to go right to John on the phone lines. John, are you with me?
Yes. Forgive me, I came in halfway in the program. What is your name again?
Dr. Stuart Shipe, S-H-I-P-E.
That's what I thought, but on the commercial, your voice sounds a little different. I love your kids. I love your commercials. My question is, you just brought up inflammation. That seems to be a big factor in a lot of different areas that affect us. And
Amen.
I know a wonderful lady. She suffered from migraines for many, many years. And I've always told her, why don't you try an acupuncturist, and why don't, try some Chinese herbs or, something different instead of just pain medicine, which is always prescribed. Unfortunately, she's had such terrible pain. And it's not just migraines. She's had back pain and other issues that it's led to, doctors, pain medicine doctors prescribing patches. Now,
Yeah.
I know this is a very open question, but generally speaking, how much success have you had with acupuncture or Chinese herbal medicine regarding migraines?
I can tell you this. I'm going to flip the coin. I can't remember a patient that I haven't had success. Is that a better answer for you?
Wow.
Because why?
That's pretty
Chinese medicine, especially, I just had a patient just come in, John, it was, right? I just had a patient just this past week. Dr. Jin is treating her now with acupuncture, but she came in and she said, I have a migraine headache. And I was like, okay, well, first of all, we don't treat headaches and we don't treat migraines. And she goes, what do you mean? Because I was like, that's a Western diagnosis name. We treat the reason why you have the headache. If the headache is on the top of the head, it's a liver problem. If the headache is on the side of the head, it's a gallbladder problem. If the headache is tight, like a vice around the head, it's a kidney problem in Chinese medicine. If you have a frontal headache, and usually worse in the afternoon, it's a digestive problem. So the headache only guides the doctor, the Chinese doctor, to what organ system is out of balance. And in this woman, she said, migraine headache. I was like, you're showing me that the headache is on both sides of the head. Classically, that is not the definition of a migraine. Usually migraines are unilateral. She goes, well, they can't figure out if it's a cluster headache or a tension headache or a variant headache or a migraine headache. I was like, cut the names. I was like, yeah, I know you'd be happy finding a name, but once you find the name, you still have the problem. So you have the name of the disease, but you have no treatment strategy and you don't know why. The why does a headache come? I've had young women come into the practice, and just from this one woman had migraines for years, the classical unilateral, unilateral one side. It was drinking wine and cheese. She had a whole bunch of these sulfites that she was putting in her body all the time. Once we really addressed the diet, the migraine, the headaches completely resolved. And I can't tell you, I had a woman one time that came in and built a headache room because her headaches were so bad, new construction home. It was a 5x8 closet. It had a solid oak door. It only had ventilation, no lights. And when she had a headache, she was going to go into this closet and lay down. It had a table in there, a massage table, until the headache resolved. Are you crazy? Building a headache room. This is how bad it is for some women, because women tend to be afflicted more than guys with migraine headaches, but you got to find the reason for the headache. And that's what Chinese medicine does best. You just said headache, and then you said arthritis, and you said low back pain and joint pain. It's the same thing. It's inflammation, and you got to find the root of that. Great question, though. Thanks for the call.
She is good on her diet, and she learned a long time ago to stay away from sulfates and calcium and all that stuff. And but the thing is, she does suffer just like that woman. She's got to go into a dark room, sometimes 3-4 days. And the funny thing was, I was listening to the Catholic channel, and Sister Angelica, who has passed on, this is an old program, some woman called up about headaches, and Sister Angelica said, besides praying, use proper herbs. And I can't remember the ones I think she mentioned a few. I'm not sure if she did or not, but she said, try herbs. And that's why I figure I'll try to steer her your way. And once again, where are you located?
I'm in Stuart, in North Stuart, just north of the Roosevelt Bridge here. And you can get online, or actually, if you just call the office, they can give you guides too, 398-4550. All right.
Well,
thank you so much for the call. We had, it's interesting because headaches you really have to find out the why. In young females, sometimes in older women as well, the headache is what we call in Chinese medicine menstrual movement head pain. And what does that mean? It means that the blood, when the Chinese say blood and nutrition start moving prior to her menses, when a woman's coming into her menstrual period, this is a time of high progesterone, should be a time of high progesterone and building the endometrium in preparation for a child. But if there's no child, that blood gets drained, and obviously that becomes a menstrual period. In Chinese medicine, that breast milk nutrition, that white nutrition, when the breasts start becoming a little tender or sore, usually a couple of days before the menstrual period, will get sore, a little bit tender, and then just go away. Chinese believe that nutrition is what is the root of the menstrual period. It comes down the body, goes from white nutrition to red nutrition. I know, again, very artistic, but the Chinese had a really good explanation for why women right before the menstrual period or right on the menstrual period get wicked migraine headaches. And you got to go back and fix the menstrual period. And if you fix the menstrual period, it's cycle and regulatory, not with birth control or hormonal indicators, but literally acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine. You can fix that. You're fixed to get rid of the headaches. And the herb in Western medicine is feverfew. The parnithenides are great antioxidants, and it's an amazing natural remedy. You definitely have to have a good quality herb, though, and that leads us to a whole nother topic about researching and finding good quality herbal products in the United States. But feverfew is definitely the herb of headache, and it's very, very effective in dealing with cluster headaches, migraine, tension type of headaches. But find the why. The why is always the most important part. So I kind of led you, we're kind of running out of time, but I led you down a path today to tell you that inflammation and the immune system are linked. They're very, very closely related. They talk to each other all the time. They talk to each other through something called complement, COMPLEMENT. Google it, look it up, and start learning about how this immune system works, because our immune system may be at the key to dealing with arthritic problems and other types of chronic debilitating disorders. If you have questions, you have comments, you want to get an evaluation, we can do that every Tuesday evening, 5:30 p.m. Here in my office, myself, Dr. Jin, We'll give a presentation. It's no obligation whatsoever. You call the office, 398-4550. Come into the office. We separate everybody out for good preventative for COVID, and everyone's in masks, very, very safe environment. And we present Chinese medicine, what it can, what it can't do, and how it may be effective for you. Call the office, 398-4550. There's no financial obligation to that. It's our gift to you to spend enough time with you so that you can make the decision and get enough data that literally you can make the choice. Is Chinese medicine going to be my destiny, my healing to get rid of the problems? I enjoyed being with you guys today. Again, 398-4550 or online at traditionalchinesehealing.com. You'll get a lot of answers and a lot of questions answered. Look forward to seeing you next week on Thursday on a WPSL. May God bless you and send you an abundance of health your way. Maybe he'll even lead you to this office. Follow the path of healing that he has for you. I'm Dr. Stuart Shipe. Zaijian. See you next week, guys.
You've been listening to A Better Way to Health with Dr. Stuart Shipe right here on WPSL, Port St. Lucie. Talk of the Treasure Coast, the webcaster of the world.